What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Claire, and today we're going to talk about where to go, what to navigate through, what you should be doing. I really want to make sure that you guys are set up properly instead of just going out and trying to find deals. There's a method and a process that you should really take into consideration before you just go searching on MLS for property deals. So if you smash that like button and we'll get started. So step number 1 is to have a credit score, a good one or a bad one. Maybe your credit score is not where you want it to be. This is the time for you to go and fix it. You need to figure out what you need to do in order to fix that credit score. We all start somewhere. Don't be ashamed that you have a bad credit score. I have seen people out there that have a 720 and they've done everything right and they still get denied. That just because you have a good credit score, that doesn't mean you're going to get approved. So go out there and find a company that is going to fix your credit score in order for you to get approved. Now, I did say that I never use my own money or credit. And the only reason why I haven't used my own money or credit is because I've done fix and flips, wholesaling, and I've used creative strategies on how to invest into real estate. So if you want to go down that road, you definitely can, and that's what I did. But if you want to do this by yourself and you want to not take on investors or anybody else, you really need to have a good credit score. And a good credit score can just be cleaning up a couple things. Maybe, something happened in the past where we're all human, we all make mistakes, but having a good credit score is something that you definitely need to have. So, step number 2 is go and build a team. And this includes CPA, attorney, bookkeeper, financial advisor, contractors, handymans, everything that you need, title escrow, agents. You need all of these people on your team, and you go to them, interviewing them and making sure that they're the right fit for you. You are going to become a real estate investor, and they need to be practicing in the field that you are investing. Just because you are an agent, that doesn't mean you deal with a lot of investors, okay? Just because you are an attorney, that doesn't mean that you yourself have assets, or you know how to do a 1031 exchange, or you know how to do certain creative strategies. You don't necessarily know how to do that. So anybody who you want on your team, you need to make sure that they are interviewed through you, and that if they don't know what to do, they either can go find the answer, but if they give you the wrong answer, then that is definitely not somebody who you want to work with, and therefore you just keep going, all right? Even for like a contractor, you need to have 3 bids on a property. You need to make sure that you properly do your due diligence with contractors, okay, guys? This is something I've learned over the years. They need to have 3 references. They need to show proof of insurance. They need to show everything and lay it out on the table. They need to be licensed. Everything you can verify through your state of, well, I'm in California, so you would go to the licensing board for the state of California. So all of that needs to be verified before you even have them take any of your money. Now, if you can't afford any of this, such as a CPA or an attorney, then we need to take a step backwards and we need to evaluate where you are. And maybe we need to actually go out and generate you some more income so you can start affording this. If you do not set yourself up properly, I'm not saying you're destined for failure, but I'm saying that you're not setting yourself up in order to have the best outcome that you can possibly have. Step number 3. Step number 3 is going and learning the terminology that has to do with real estate. And a lot of people don't know what an ARV is, an ROI, a FSBO, a CMA. There's so many different types of terminologies that if you don't speak the investor language, then no bank or even an investor who's going to invest into you, they're not going to want to invest because you don't know what you're talking about, okay? This is simple information, but it's also, you need to go learn the language. I always tell the people that come into this business, I always say, you need to speak a different language, such as Spanish. Spanish, at first you're not very good, but once you pick it up over a period of time, you start to understand it. So you really need to make sure that you understand the real estate terminology. I raised $422,000 because I spoke his language, and I actually taught him something in the process. Actually, with the amount of money he had, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that they're not open to learning more. It's because I helped him with certain things. I helped him make sure that the comps were correct on the property and everything. He was willing to give me the money without checking my credit and without verifying my income. He just knew it was a good deal because I brought it to him in a way that I understood how to bring it to an investor. So there's a very big terminology pool. There's also, you need to understand real estate law. So a lot of people kind of skip through this for some reason, but in the state of California, I can't speak for everywhere, but a lot of people, they like to come after you, especially tenants. We are a tenant state where they side mainly towards the tenants versus the landlords. So if you are in a state that favors one or the other, you better understand exactly what you're getting yourself into. Now, this is why you have also professionals on your team, or you need to go out and learn it somehow. And how I learned a lot of it was through a community of real estate investors, and I also got my license through real estate, and that is pure law-based for the exam. So that was very helpful as well. Now, I'm not saying go out and get your license if that's not something you want to do, but that's how I found out a lot of it. But I also was a part of a community that also helped me in that aspect as well. But I will say this, you definitely need to know what the law is on certain things. A lot of stuff comes out of left field. You need to be up to date on the laws. Right now is such a crazy time, so making sure that you are completely up to date. And don't rely on other people to keep you up to date. You need to make sure that you're actively always on top of it, because that is the way that you are going to be successful in this business. Step number 4. This is going out and creating a business plan of 10-year, a 5-year, and a 1-year. A lot of people get into this business and they jump full force into wholesaling, but wholesaling is just typically, it's just a job at that point. You're just going around in circles, and I see a lot of people get burnt out from that. After, 3 or 4 months of generating leads, or maybe not generating any business, that you get a sour taste in your mouth and you want to quit. So having an actual plan on how you're going to go about it, where you're going to generate your leads, how you're going to do it. A lot of my business right now is referral based, but you're saying, Claire, you're 5 years in this business, you should have a huge network. Well, I do. However, when I first started the business as well, I was consistently networking with other people. And I also brought in a team that helped me as well. So just because I have a team now 5 years later, that doesn't mean that I didn't start out with one. I went door knocking one time. I did generate a flip from that. However, I didn't like going out door knocking because at that point, it took me 3 months of full on door knocking to be able to go out and generate one deal. All right. So that's not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I didn't sign up for that. I signed up for passive income, okay? So I wanted to make sure that whenever I go out or do something, that it's money-based and I'm going to generate the biggest return from it. Maybe you have a lot of time and you can go out and you can door knock, and door knocking is kind of like obsolete at this point. Or you can go and call people. But I saw someone who actually, he spent 6 months and he didn't generate anything. So you don't want to get burnt out at the same time. Now, the other thing is, what exactly do you want to do? Do you want to do wholesaling, fix and flip, multifamily? Do you want to do buy and holds? Do you want to do lease options? Do you want to do commercial? What exactly do you want to do? And you got to figure that out. And you're like, well, I can't do rentals. But that's not necessarily the case. You just don't know how to do rentals in a way that maybe you can't bring on an investor for the money, or maybe you don't understand how to do creative financing, or whatever the case might be. But just because someone says start with wholesaling, that doesn't mean necessarily that you need to start there. Maybe you have a good income, a good paying job, and you have minor hits on your credit and you just need to fix it. And then you can go out and get a rental property. So it really just depends on how you want to do it. For me personally, I went out and I did creative financing, and I do have rental properties. So it really just depends on how you do it, okay? So you also want to make sure that you have a solid game plan. If you take on investors, how is that investor going to get paid back? That is something, maybe you guys go into an LLC together, and then they might have ownership, they might not have ownership, but how are they going to get their money back plus a return on their money? Because that's what usually typically investors don't invest into money that they can't generate something from it, right? So maybe you have this solid game plan, and then you go present it to an investor, and the investor's like, okay, that's what I want to do. You know, that's my investor ID, and we're on the same page, so I'm going to bring in the money, you can find the properties, and then we can generate this great business partnership together. So it really just depends on how you go about it. Everything works, nothing doesn't, okay? So making sure you have a solid plan of attack, making sure you set yourself up properly, a marketing plan, a SWOT analysis, everything that you would Google and find on the internet of a business plan is what you also need to think about. You need to think about all aspects of the business before you just jump into a business, okay? That's extremely important. A lot of business fails within the first 5 years is because they either had a plan and it didn't work out, or it didn't pan out and they didn't shift with the times, or they just never had a plan and they just jumped into it and they didn't survive. So making sure you have a proper business plan is extremely, extremely important. Writing down your goals, making sure you hit them, writing set due dates, making sure you hit those. All of that is extremely important. Obviously, we're not all perfect, but you definitely need to get into the habit of making sure you write stuff down and to really make sure you map it all out so it makes logical sense in order for you to go out and do it. But if you're going to do wholesaling, there needs to be a plan to get to fix and flip. There needs to be a plan to get to buy and holds. There needs to be a plan of attack in order for you to do that. Step number 5. So this one is getting rid of consumer debts. The other one is budgeting. They kind of go hand in hand. So number 1 is getting rid of bad consumer debt. Now there is such a thing as good debt, meaning that you take on a debt in order for it to pay you every single month. Now, if you take on a bad debt, like you went shopping, or you have lots of credit card debt, that is considered bad debt. And so now there needs to be a plan of action in order to be able to get that reduced to something that's more manageable at this point. So how to do that? Going and making sure, setting yourself up for a budget, meaning that, do you really need Starbucks every single day, right? Do you really need to go and purchase these nice heels every single time? Is it better to have the brand new shiny nickel like a car or a new iPhone, or is it better to have something that's paid off so that you can actually go out and have that money to go spend in other places? So stop keeping up with the Joneses, because let me tell you something, the Joneses aren't wealthy. All right? So that's my biggest tip, is to make sure that you get rid of all the bad debt. If it doesn't generate you income, it is not a good situation, okay? Now, I'm not saying don't have those nice things, but have your assets pay for your liabilities, okay? So if you want to live a lavish lifestyle, make sure that you have your assets pay for that, okay? So if you want to have $10,000 generating every single month, that means your assets need to be at $10,000 or more at the same time. That is the way that you're going to be able to live the lifestyle that you've always wanted. I made the mistake in going out and purchasing, well, I actually leased a really nice car. And because I did that, every single month, I wouldn't say I'm strapped for cash every single month, but it was like I was paying $700, where that $700 could have been going to a different thing. I could be saving that money. That $700 adds up. Now, you can have those things. I'm not saying don't have them, but do it when you can afford it. And now you don't have to go out and work a job in order to pay for those things. So You only live off of your passive income. You do not live off of your active income. Step number 6 is making sure that you have the right entity and you have the right board of advisors. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen people go out and do real estate and they put it in their own name. I still have investors to this day that have properties in their own name and they own the property and they own the business inside of it, okay? If somebody trips and falls and something happens, who are they coming after? They're coming after you and everything that comes along with it. Okay, so making sure that you have the right entity and the right board of advisors, meaning that if you don't have family you can trust, don't trust them and don't put them on the board of advisors. These people you need to know, like, and trust, and you need to make sure that you have the right people in place so if something were to happen to you, that your family gets taken care of, meaning your children, your husband, or anybody who has, access and is going to benefit from you owning a business is extremely important. So now I happen to be on the board of advisors for my mother. Now we take annual trips to have where we can go and we can talk about business, and we enjoy it. So I get to spend some time with my mom and we can talk about business, and we have to have a 4-hour and 1-minute meeting in order for us to write off the whole trip. So having people in your corner that think alike, that think the same way you do, is extremely important. So definitely have the right entity for the right job and the right board of advisors to make sure that you are protected. So the last and final step is for you to go out and get a Roth IRA. And the reason for this is you want to set yourself up for retirement. You want to make sure that you have enough nest eggs, so if something were to happen when you retire or you don't have the money, you have something saved up. You're like, Claire, I can't afford a Roth IRA. I get it. But I don't get it because you drink Starbucks every single day and you can be saving that money and putting it towards a Roth IRA. If you spend anything at Starbucks a week, that money, you should just take it, buy some coffee, and then go put it in the Roth IRA. If you do $12 a week, you will be set up for the rest of your life. Now, I can't guarantee you that because I don't know what age you're at, but you start early enough, you will be saved for a very good chunk of time. Now, you can go and take that Roth IRA, roll it over into a self-directed IRA, and that way you can take that and go invest it into real estate, okay? And the money comes back tax-free. Isn't that nice? Also, get an HSN account, which is a health savings account. A lot of people out there are like, I don't want to leave my job because I love the benefits that come with it. Well, you can actually set yourself up for medical. So making sure that you have an HSA account so that you can go out there and make sure that you are covered if something were to happen to you medical wise. So that's also a good one. The last and final thing I will say is making sure you have a will and a trust. Just because you have a will, that does not mean that you are exempt from going through probate. That is not the case. If you have a will and a trust, you will always be able to have just the attorney be able to go out and make sure that you are set up properly. So you want to make sure that you have a will and a trust, so that way you're not fighting with your friends and family. Well, you're not, but because you passed away, but your friends and family are not fighting, right? You don't want that. You want to make sure that everything is set up properly so when something does happen, that you are able to go out there and they are able to make sure that they know exactly what to do. I've seen it way too many times across the board where the families were so together and then they had to go through this whole probate process and they're at each other's throats. You don't want to be that family. Get yourself set up properly. Awesome, that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell notification so you can know when I upload. I will be uploading 3 times a week. Also, you can email me with the email down below. And I also have a private Facebook group where you can join and we can have more conversation. And I would love to hear your feedback. I would love to get to know you guys a little bit more. So that is also in the description. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.